Hello, welcome to today's lesson. We will be going over lesson 3.4. And then, let's see. Today is the 19th. And the title of our lesson is Round Decimals. Okay, so our essential question says, how can you use place value to round decimals to a given place? Before we talk about decimals, I just want to go over some general rounding guidelines. So when you have to round something up or down, if you have numbers 0 through 4, you round down. And then numbers 5 through 9, you round up to the next place or to the next number. And then just like regular rounding, when we need to round something to a certain place value position, we always look to the number to the right of that position. Okay. So when we round decimals, we always round numbers we always look to the number to the right. So if I have the number 593 and I wanted to round this number to the nearest 100, so if this were the hundreds place, 593, and I wanted to round this number to the nearest 100, I look at the number to the right of the number, which is a 9, and I say, okay, I need to round up because it's 5 through 9, so I need to round this number up 1. So the 5 would go up to a 6, and then everything behind that number would become a 0. And then it's the same as decimals. So if I had 593 thousandths and I wanted to round it to the nearest 10th position, again, I look to the number to the right of that, and that number is a 9, so it goes up. So this becomes 6 tenths, and everything else just becomes a 0. You can even leave it blank, so you wouldn't even have to write the zeros in, or you could just write 6 tenths like that without having anything there, because zeros are just a placeholder when you round in decimals. So if I were to take off the zeros here, that would just be a number 6. That would represent 6 ones. So I have to have these zeros in this one. But when you round decimals, you can include the zeros that you had numbers in for those place value positions. So like I had a number in the hundredths and I had a number in the thousandths. So I could make those positions be a 0. But I don't have to include those if I don't want to. So having it written this way, 600 thousandths or 6 tenths, these represent the same number. These are equivalent decimals. Okay. All right, so that's just a quick refresher of rounding numbers. So again, you always just look to the number to the right of the number that you want to round to. So if I wanted to round, so let's just use the example of 593 again. If now I wanted to round it to the nearest tens place, well, I look to the number to the right of the tens, and that's a 3. So in this case, I would round down, or stays the same. Okay, so in this sense, I wouldn't change the 9 to an 8. It would just round down to 590, the closest 10. And then again, if I had 593 thousandths and I wanted to round it to the nearest hundredths position, so this 9 right here, I look to the right and that number is still a 3, so I, instead of changing this or rounding down, this number just stays the same. So it just I like to say it falls back on the 9, okay, instead of jumping forward. So this number would just be 59 hundredths, or you could write 590 thousandths, or 59 hundredths. So those are equivalent decimals again. Okay. All right, just a quick refresher before we get started, just to remind us how to round numbers, generally speaking. All right, pause here if you need to copy any of this down, and then let's go ahead and look at our unlock the problem. Okay, so our unlock the problem, it says the gold frog of South America is one of the smallest frogs in the world. It is 386 thousandths of an inch long. What is this length rounded to the nearest hundredth of an inch? Okay, so it says underline the length of the gold frog. So this is our length of the gold frog right here. Is the frog's length about the same as the length or the width of a large paper clip? Okay, so let's see here. It says write the number in a place value chart and circle the digit in the place value which you want to round. Okay, so it has our place value chart right here, so 386 thousandths. We've written the place value chart down several times, so if you want to, you can go ahead and just copy this down again. So I have my, scooch that over a little bit so you can see. So I would just write my ones position here. Here's my spot for my decimal, and then I have tenths, hundredths, and then thousandths. Hopefully you can see, yeah, okay. And then you would just make your chart. So there's my decimal place, tenths, my hundredths, my thousandths columns. All right, so the frog is 386 thousandths of an inch. And it says, write the number in the place value chart and circle the digit you want in the place which you want to round. Okay, so it says round it to the nearest hundredth of an inch. So I want to round it to the hundredths position right here. So instead of having 3 digits to the right of the decimal, I want to only have 2 digits to the right of the decimal. Then it says, in the place value chart, underline the digit to the right of the decimal to which you are rounding. Okay, so I'm going to be using this 6 to help me to round the 8. Okay, if the digit to the right is less than 5, the digit in the place value to which you are rounding stays the same. So we have a 6 here, so that's not less than 5. So I need to go to the next part. If the digit to the right is 5 or greater, the digit in the rounding place value increases by 1. Okay, so if it increases by 1 because this is a 6, this 8 is going to go up to a 9, and then everything behind that just falls off. So it says drop the digits after the place to which you are rounding. Okay, so I'm going to drop off this thousandths position. I've rounded it up to the 9, and so now I just have 39 hundredths of an inch. So the nearest hundredth of an inch, a gold frog, is about 39 hundredths of an inch long. Okay. All right, I am going to write these two. Actually, I would probably just copy down all 4 of these bullet points in your math notebook, so that way you have a step-by-step process for which you can use for rounding. So I'm going to go ahead and copy these down, and I think that you should do the same, and then we will go ahead and continue on our packet. So I'm going to just copy them while the video is going, and then if you want to just pause and copy them down and then fast forward, you can do that, okay? But I'm just copying down all 4 of these bullet points, okay? So steps for rounding. All right, it's a lot of writing, so just keep going. It says, write the number in a place value chart and circle the digit in the place to which you want to round. Step 2, in the place value chart, underline the digit to the right of the place to which you are rounding. Okay, step 3. If the digit to the right is less than 5, if the digit to the right is less than 5, the digit in the place to which you are rounding no period, to which you are rounding, stays the same. If the digit to the right is 5 or greater, the digit in the rounding place increases by 1. And then the last bullet says, drop the digits after the place to which you are rounding. So that just means that you don't have to put the zeros there after. Okay, so it just wants you to drop the digits. All right, if you need time to finish up writing those bullet points, go ahead and pause here and then resume when you're ready, and let's take a look at the bottom example. All right. It says another way, it says the little grass frog is the smallest frog in North America. It is 437 thousandths of an inch long. Letter A, what is the length of the frog to the nearest hundredth of an inch? Okay, so I have my place value chart right here. And I'm just going to copy it down on my place value chart, and then I'm going to do exactly what they told me to do in my steps. So it says write the number in the place value chart. So 437 thousandths. And then it says circle the digit in the place value to which you want to round. So I want to round it again to the nearest hundredth. So I'm going to round this. And then it says in the place value chart, underline the digit to the right. So to the right is my 7. So I underline that. And then it says if the digit to the right is less than 5, so this is my digit to the right that I underlined. If it's less than 5, the digit in the place value, this one to which I am rounding, stays the same. Well, this is a 7, so it's not less than 5. So it says if the digit to the right is 5 or greater, the digit in the rounding place, which is where you circled, increases by 1. So I want to increase this digit by 1. So I'm going to say it goes up, and then this falls off. And so I'm left with 4, 4, okay? So on your packet it says 44 hundredths. So the nearest hundredth of an inch, the frog is about 44 hundredths of an inch long. Letter B says, what is the length of the frog to the nearest tenth of an inch? Okay, so again, I'm going to write 437 thousandths. Now I'm rounding to the tenths position. So I circle this one. I underline this one. I look to the number that's to the right, which is the 3. If it's less than 5, then this digit stays the same. And then everything else of it falls off. So I'm just left with 4 tenths because this number was a 3. It stays the same. So I'm left with 4 tenths. So decimal 4. 4 tenths of an inch long in that one. Okay. Go ahead and pause here if you need to copy any of that down, and then resume when you're ready, and we'll take a look at the back side. All right, on the back we have another example. It says the Goliath frog is the largest frog in the world. It is found in the country of Cameroon in West Africa. The Goliath frog can grow to be 11 and 815 inches, 11 and 815 thousandths of an inch long. How long is the Goliath frog to the nearest inch? Okay. All right, so on your packet, it has it broken down for you. Step 1, write 11 and 815 thousandths in the place value chart. So I have a tens position and a ones position, and then I write my decimal, 815 thousandths. Find the place to which you want to round and circle the digit. So how long is the Goliath frog to the nearest inch? So whole number. So I want to round it to this position here. Okay, because to the nearest inch, I'm now looking at whole numbers. These are my inches. These are fractions of inches. Underline the digit to the right of the place to which you are rounding. So notice I can even cross over through my decimal because I'm using the 8 in this tenths position right here. And so I can even cross over the decimal boundary, and I'm going to use this 8 to now round my number in my ones position. Underline the digits to the place to which you are rounding, then round. Think, does the digit in the rounding place stay the same or increase? Well, this number is an 8, and if it's a number 5 or higher, I need to round up. So this is an 8, so that means this digit increases by 1 position, so from 1 to 2. And so now my closest whole number is 12 inches with nothing, no decimal or anything. You could include a decimal right here, but anything after it is just zeros, so you don't even need to include the decimal. But you can if you want to, but everything else of it is just zeros, so there's nothing to write after the whole number 12. It says, how would your answer change if the frog were 11 and 286 thousandths inches long? Well, let's go ahead and write 11 just right above it. So there's my tens, my ones, and then 2, 8, 6. So I'm still rounding it to the nearest whole inch, which is the 1. But now after the decimal right here, oh, this is circled, sorry. This one's underlined. The 2 is a number between 0 and 4. So now this number stays the same. So it would change it from closer to 11 inches than closer to 12 inches. Okay, hopefully you can see how this number, by just being less than 5, makes this whole number just stay the same, which leaves me with 11 inches. All right, it says explain why any number less than 12 and 5/10 and greater than or equal to 11 and 5/10 would round to 12 when rounded to the nearest whole number. Okay, so I have any number less than 12 and 5/10. So if I had 12 and 3/10, and then any number greater than or equal to 11 and 5/10. So if I had 11 and 6/10, or 11 and 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, or if this were 12 and 1/10, 12 and 2/10, 12 and 3/10, 12 and 4/10, these would both go to 12. They would both round to 12 because I'm using this digit right here, right? Because I'm rounding it to the nearest whole number. So I'm using this digit in the tenths and this digit in the tenths. They are both round to 12 because 0 to 3 and this, or 0 to 4. So 0.0 to 0.4 would have the number, the whole number, stay at 12. And then this decimal, I'm just going to put a comma here, 0.5 to 0.9, in a number that began with 11 as a whole number, would make the number, the whole number increase by 1. Okay, so hopefully you can see just by looking at 12 and 3/10 and 11 and 6/10 that this one is going to fall back to the 12 and this one is going to round up to the 12. So they would both actually be rounded to the nearest whole number of 12, even though this one began with a whole number of 11 instead of a whole number of 12. But because the place value positions that we're comparing are both in the tenths position, and this one is always is a lesser number and this one's a greater number, this one falls back and this one jumps forward to the next whole number there. All right, go ahead and pause here. Sorry, I got a little squishy with my writing right there. But go ahead and pause here if you need to copy any of this down, and then we'll resume and we'll do A and B at the bottom here. All right, it says round 14 and 603 thousandths, okay? So my number is 14 and then 603 thousandths. So in letter A, I want to round to the nearest hundredth. So I'm circling the hundredth. I'm underlining the number to the right, which is my thousandths position. This number is a 3, which means that this number stays the same. I don't have to increase it because 0 to 4, it just stays the same. So it says circle and underline the digits as you did above to help you round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so 14 and 603 thousandths rounded to the nearest hundredth is, but notice here that this number stays the same, but it's already a 0. So I technically don't even have to write it. I'm just going to write 14 and 6/10, or you could write 14 and 6/60. Okay, it means the same thing. Those are equal decimals there. Okay, because if you have $14.60, I mean it's 14 and 6/10. Okay, that means you have 6 dimes, or $14.60. So, or 60 pennies. So that's what changes. So this one's technically only like in dime form. So this is having 6 dimes, and this one's having 60 pennies because you went to the hundredths units instead of just keeping it in units of tenths. So, but either way, if you have $14 and then 6 dimes, or $14.60, you still have 60 cents here and 60 cents here, if that makes sense. Okay, now it says round to the nearest whole number. So I still have 14 and 603 thousandths, but my whole number always begins with my ones position. So I circle my number in my ones position. I look to the number in my tenths position, and that number is a 6, which means that this number to the left is going to increase by 1 unit. So I'm going to go from 14 up to 15, and you just leave it like that. Okay, a whole number of 15. You don't have to write a decimal or any zeros. Okay. All right, go ahead and pause here if you need to, and then let's continue on with the share and show on the next page. All right, share and show. It says write the place value of the underlined digit, round each number to the place value of the underlined digits. Okay, so I just have my steps for rounding out right here. This is going to be great for you to refer back to. So it says I need to round it now to the underlined digit, which it makes it confusing because it was having me underline these digits before. So it says write the place value of the underlined digit. So this digit is in 7/100ths. Okay, round each digit or round each number to the place value of the underline. So I'm just going to circle this 7 right here and underline that 3 because that's the position I want to round it to. And then I'm going to look to the 3, and the 3 is a number that is, if the digit to the right is less than 5, the digit in the place value to which you are rounding stays the same. So I have 67/100ths here. Oh, I'm supposed to write hundredths because it said to write the place value. It's like it gives us 2 lines. Well, that makes sense. Okay, so 67/100ths. Now on number 2, I'm rounding it to this tenths position. The 2 is in the tenths position. So tenths here. And I look to the number to the right, which is an 8. That number, it says if the number to the right is greater than 5 or greater, the place digit in the rounding place increases by 1. So that means this 2 is going to increase by 1. So 4 and 3/10 now. All right, and then number 3, it wants me to round it to the nearest whole number right here. So I circle the 2, underline the number to the right, which is a 9, and I'm rounding it to my ones or whole number. So the number is a 9. So that means that this number increases by 1. So it goes from 2 to 3. So my whole number is 13 here. Okay, the next section, it says name the place value to which each number was rounded. Okay, so I look at this and I have 982 thousandths, and it was rounded to 900 or 98 hundredths. So it took off that last position. So if you want to, you could refer back to your place value chart here, and you can see, okay, well, I have 2 digits to the right of the decimal now, and so that was rounded to the hundredths position. They already did the rounding. It just wants to know what position it's in now. So from 3 and 695 thousandths to 4. Well, there's no decimal here, so it was rounded to the nearest whole number. And then on number 6, 7 and 486 thousandths is rounded to 7 and 5 tenths because there's one position to the right of the decimal. So that would be 7 and 5 tenths. So it was rounded to the nearest tenths position. All right, pause here if you need to copy any of that down, and then we'll talk about the on your own portion. All right, so on your own, I would choose, well, from this top section right here, it has 7 through 12, so I would choose 3 here. Choose 3. And here, 13 through 15, there's only 3, so I would do all of those, and then same with 16 through 18. I would do all of that. It's just using this one number right here to round to the nearest tenths, hundredths, and ones, but all using 16 and 748 thousandths to do that. So I would do all 3 of those, and then these ones here as well, and then choose 3 from this section and make sure you're checking your work. Explain what happens when you round 4 and 999 thousandths to the nearest tenth. Well, this 9 is the tenths position, so if I round it to here, that means that I use this 9 and this is a 9, so all of these actually increase, which since there's nothing for this to increase to because this number is technically a 9, and then I start my pattern all over again when I'm counting. So since this number is a 9, I would go to my whole number, and this would actually make it increase to a whole number of 5. If you have $4.09 and say like the thousandths is not here, if you have $4.99 and you add one more to that, you actually get $5. So this, it changes the whole number to just being a whole number of 5 with nothing after the decimal, or no decimal, 5 with no decimal. So 5 is just your whole number here. So that's kind of an interesting question, is that what if you do have a number like this and it's a 9 and a 9? Yes, these numbers would technically start over again at 10 or 0, but that means that this would have to change the whole number as well, and not just the numbers after the decimal. Okay, and then on the back side, it has your problem solving and applications using this chart right here to help you answer the questions. And then this one also includes the math on the spot video here. So I would try these ones on the back because a lot of your Think Central questions will kind of be like these. And then check your work using the document down below. And then on your homework, again, evens or odds on the front. If this is taking you less than 10 minutes to complete, I would do the whole thing. But if you're just struggling and it takes you a long time, if you work at a little bit of a slower pace, I don't want you spending an hour on one sheet of homework. So you can choose evens or odds. And then on the back, as usual, go ahead and do all 6. The top 2 always go with our lesson for today, and then the bottom 4 are review from the previous lessons down here, talking about different concepts. So, all right, and then bring any call or any questions that you have to our Zoom call, and we can go over anything that you need more explanation on. I'd be happy to answer your questions with that. All right, thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate it, and keep up the wonderful work. Thanks, guys.